Three men are shown in the movie's opening scene traveling down the highway late at night. Henry, Jimmy, and Tommy are in the car together. Henry hears a loud thumping sound while Jimmy and Tommy are asleep. Henry becomes aware that they must stop and inspect the trunk as he is trying to locate the source of the noise. We see a battered man covered in multiple bloody tablecloths when they open it. Tommy stabs the man multiple times with a kitchen knife out of rage before Jimmy uses a revolver to shoot him 4 times. After Henry slams the trunk lid shut, we hear a voiceover say, "I've always wanted to be a gangster as far back as I can remember." To witness the events leading up to this scene, we will now travel back several decades. Young Henry Hill, who grew up mostly in an Italian neighborhood in East New York, Brooklyn, in the 1950s, idolizes the Lucchese crime family gangsters, and in 1955 drops out of school to work for them. Henry's criminal career is fostered by Paulie, the local mob capo, and Jimmy, Paulie's close associate. Henry is partnered with Tommy, who is still quite young, and the two of them sell cartons of cigarettes that Jimmy has given them to local factory workers, a crossing guard, and a few police officers. As Henry is selling them, 2 detectives arrive, seize the cash in the load, and place Henry under arrest. Tommy slips off to tell Paulie's brother, Tootie. When Henry appears in court, he receives a slap on the wrist. Jimmy tells him that he did well despite getting pinched and gives him a sizable reward for his silence. Henry didn't give any names to the police and discovered the 2 most crucial lessons for someone in their profession. Never rat on your friends and always keep your mouth shut. Henry receives a warm, welcoming greeting from the rest of the group. As adults, Tommy, Henry, and Conway plan to steal a large portion of the billions of dollars worth of cargo that arrives at John F. Kennedy International Airport. They assist in a major theft, taking more than $500,000 from the cargo terminal of Air France. Henry gains Paulie's trust through the heist, and as a thank you, Henry gives Paulie a substantial portion of the loot. Henry is aware that he will never be a made man and a full-fledged member of the criminal family, though, because he is half Irish. Jimmy Conway, who is also Irish, cannot either. Henry's friends grow more reckless and daring as time goes on. Tommy has an explosive temper and a delusional need to prove himself through violence, and Conway enjoys taking over trucks. He once humiliates a young, defenseless waiter named Spider by asking him to dance like the Oklahoma Kid and then shooting him in the foot. A few nights later, Tommy pulls out a gun and shoots Spider in the chest, killing him instantly after Spider challenges him while he is very drunk. Tommy is utterly unaffected by Jimmy's anger at him for shooting Spider, and he asks coldly where he can find a shovel so he can bury the dead man. Additionally, Henry meets and falls in love with a straight-talking young Jewish woman named Karen, and the two of them frequent the Copacabana Club 2 or 3 times a week. Although Karen is uncomfortable with her boyfriend's career, she finds herself turned on by it as well, particularly after Henry gives her the bloody pistol to hide and brutally pistol whips her neighbor for attempting to push himself on her. Karen and Henry eventually tie the knot. In June 1970, Tommy, with Jimmy's help, brutally kills Billy, a man in the rival Gambino crime family, because Billy insulted Tommy. This is a serious crime, and if the Gambinos find out, they could all be killed. Henry, Conway, and DeVito bury Billy's body in an abandoned field, returning us to the opening car trunk scene of the film after stopping at Tommy's mother's house for a late-night snack and to grab a shovel. After learning 6 months later that the land has been sold, they are obliged to move, excavate, and rebury the severely decomposed body, a task Tommy and Jimmy regards as just another mundane chore, but which physically sickens Henry. When Karen learns that Henry has a mistress named Janice, their marriage begins to suffer. As Henry awakens from his sleep, Karen approaches him brandishing a gun. Henry subdues her as soon as she lowers the gun, screaming that he can't handle worrying about getting whacked on the street any longer without having to wake up with a gun in his face. Jimmy and Paulie pay Henry a visit at Janice's apartment and inform him that his philandering is detrimental to his business. Paulie assures Karen that Henry will return to his house in a few days and that he will persuade her that Henry is worthy of being taken back. To locate a deadbeat who owes Paulie money, Henry will travel to Florida with Jimmy in the meantime. Due to the fact that the debt-ridden gambler's sister worked as an FBI typist, Henry and Jimmy are apprehended and sentenced to 4 years in prison at the Lowry Park Zoo in Tampa after beating and hanging the man over a lion cage. When he returns to them, Henry has a lucrative drug connection in Pittsburgh. There, he sells drugs to the other convicts in order to support himself and his family. Since mob bosses who have made running drugs behind their backs risk receiving lengthy prison sentences, Paul advises Henry against dealing drugs. Ignoring Paulie's orders, Henry launches a complex cocaine smuggling scheme involving Tommy, Jimmy, Karen, and his mistress, Sandy. In December 1978, around the same time, Jimmy Conway and associates mastermind and pull off an unprecedented off-screen theft worth $6 million from the Lufthansa cargo terminal at JFK Airport. Soon after the heist, some of Jimmy's friends irresponsibly show off their gains in public, possibly drawing attention from the police, and Jimmy starts having them killed. This makes Jimmy more and more paranoid. Even worse, Tommy is ruthlessly shot in the head by the Lucchese family elders as payback for Billy's passing and his careless actions. This happens after Tommy is promised a warm welcome into the family as a made man. In a lengthy virtuoso sequence titled Sunday, May 11, 1980, every branch of Henry's convoluted Mafia career intersects. He has to organize a significant cocaine shipment, deliver a small cachet of pistols to Jimmy, prepare a large meal for his family, appease his mistress Sandy, who processes the cocaine he sells, deal with his naive babysitter and drug courier Louise, evade federal authorities who, unknowingly to him, have been watching him for several months, and appease his sleazy drug connection clients. All the while, Henry is a nervous wreck from sleep deprivation and overindulgent in his own product. Louise won't fly without her lucky hat, so she insists Henry take her home. As he backs out of his driveway, the police arrest Henry and Louise. Following Sandy's arrest, Henry, Lois, and a ton of equipment covered in cocaine are brought in by the police from Sandy's apartment. Once all of the cocaine that was concealed in the home is destroyed and her mother agrees to pledge their house as security for the bail money, Karen releases her husband from police custody. After being caught, Karen admits she destroyed the $60,000 worth of coke Henry was going to ship, leaving Henry and his family penniless. The couple then breaks down together. Paulie and the rest of the gang desert Henry following his incarceration. Paulie confronts Henry one last time and chastises him for lying about his drug dealing. After giving him a few $1,000s, Paulie abandons him. When Karen and Jimmy meet, she informs Jimmy that Henry has become more sober and that he hasn't been disclosing any important information about Jimmy or his fellow mob members. Jimmy gives Karen instructions to look at some stolen dresses in one of his storefronts before she leaves. When Karen notices two dubious-looking employees, she becomes alarmed. Jimmy is making it very evident to Karen and Henry that discussing their connections could result in their humiliating termination. Henry makes the decision to work as an FBI informant after coming to the conclusion that he and his family are targeted for death. He testifies against Paulie and Jimmy in court before he and his family join the federal witness protection program and vanish into anonymity to save their lives. These days, he describes himself as an average nobody and says, "I get to live the rest of my life like a schnook." In a tribute to the last scene of the great train robbery, Tommy fires a pistol right into the camera in the film's brief ending, suggesting that Henry will never truly give up on a life of crime. A few title cards that depict the fates of Hill, Paulie, and Jimmy are shown as the movie comes to an end. Paulie and Jimmy will essentially live out the rest of their lives behind bars, and Henry's marriage to Karen ended in divorce while her receiving custody of their kid. Paulie passed away in jail in 1988. Even though Conway passed away from lung cancer in 1996 while he was still a prisoner, his title card states that he was eligible for parole in 2004.